welcome back to my channel. It's Ashley here, and today I'm going to be doing a March TBR. I'm not the type of person to set TBRs for myself just because I'm a huge mood reader, but in the month of February I got very off track with what I was supposed to be reading, quote unquote. I had a bunch of books that I had taken out on Libby and I had on my Kindle or in audiobook format. And I recently hauled a couple of books for my birthday, and even before that, at the end of 2020, my boyfriend had taken me to a bookstore and bought like all the books I picked, so I have a bunch of new books, and I need to be reading them. That being said, I am going to be choosing a wide range of genres just because I am a mood reader, like I said, and if I have a TBR that's full of one genre, I am going to stray from it. I'm trying to incorporate a good amount of romance just because that's probably the genre that I read most at this point in my life, but I am also going to be reading some classics and a couple of books that have just now come out. They have more so talking about family dynamics that I'm really excited about. The first book though I'm going to be reading or want to read is Jennifer Ashley's book, Lady Isabellas' Scandalous Marriage. This is the second book in the series. Isabella and Mac, I believe the brother's name is, are both currently separated. Their marriage is said to be very scandalous in society at the time, and then their separation is also a huge scandal as well. In the first book, even though Isabella and Mac don't play a huge role, the interactions they have about one another and with one another, you can tell they still very much so care about each other. So it was intriguing to see their interactions and how they spoke about one another, and it made me wonder what happened to their marriage, what made it scandalous, what caused them to separate. And I'm very excited to read this because I really enjoyed both of them as individuals, and it makes me feel even though this is a second chance romance or a romance where the relationship's already established, and I don't tend to read that, it makes me really want to read this because I like them as individuals and I want to see them together overall. So that's going to be really exciting. I definitely absolutely adored the first book in the series, so I'm looking forward to that. The second book I want to read is Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. I've read a couple of novels by Alice Oseman so far, but my favorite of her work that I've personally read at this point is the Heartstopper series. This is the second volume, and it covers Nick and Charlie's relationship. They've been friends for a couple of months now, and Charlie makes a decision at the end of the second volume that really causes him to worry if he ruined their friendship, and it causes Nick to really question a lot of things. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this turns out as well. I waited so long for this book to come out in hard copy, hardcover in the US specifically, because I didn't think it came out until November 2020, that I might go back and read the first volume, but I'm really looking forward to that, and it's going to be a nice quick read when I do want to read something, but I want to start a huge novel. I also want to read two works by Shakespeare. The first is Othello. This is one of the books that my boyfriend bought for me at the end of 2020. I think out of all of Shakespeare's work that I have not read so far, the two books that I A, hear the most about, and B, am the most intrigued by are Othello and Hamlet. So I really want to read Othello now that I have it. This is a really nice copy in all actuality. It does break down a lot of the text, which I often need. I do read a lot of my Shakespeare online, so I can better understand the text and what's going on. So that will be super helpful, but this will be my first physical copy of a Shakespeare work, and it'll be nice to also annotate it so I am able to better understand the language in the future, so I can maybe start buying more of the physical books. On top of that work, I'm tossing all these books on my bed. On top of that work, I also want to read Romeo and Juliet. It's one of the books that I never got a chance to read when I was in school, and I want to read it more so now because it shows up on almost every like classics book list that I tend to look at, and also because right now I'm really wanting to read These Violent Delights. This is said to be like a retelling in, I think, ancient Shanghai of Romeo and Juliet. I've been hearing a lot of good things about this book. I specifically want to read Romeo and Juliet so I can get like the nuances in this book that I wouldn't be able to get otherwise. But I do hear that this isn't like a straightforward retelling. Like, it's not like following the story extremely closely. So I definitely think I'll be able to enjoy the book outside of that as well. My friend Angie also read it like recently, and they said that it was really interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. I also just found out that there's going to be a second book in this, like, I don't know if it's going to be a series or like a duology or what, but that makes me really interested as well. So I definitely want to pick this up now that like the cover's been released and everything for the second book, and I'm hoping I like it. In my head, conceptually, I'm never gonna like Romeo and Juliet, so it wouldn't hurt my feelings if it was like super like different than Romeo and Juliet, but also I understand that reading Romeo and Juliet might help me understand that better. My probably like most anticipated read for the month is Honey Girl. I talked about this book a little bit before and said that I didn't believe it to be like more so like a romance, but more about like a family dynamic and identity and like coming to understand yourself and like those like roles that we play within our families and how people and we understand ourselves. So I'm now hearing a lot on like BookTube that like it isn't like primarily a romance, which really excites me. I definitely want to read this. In this book, the main character ends up getting like married, like Las Vegas style, and she moves across the country, I believe, to New York. And because this was like such an abrupt like decision that was like spontaneous, she's basically like having to deal with the fact that her decision really changed like her role, how her family sees her, how she views herself, and I'm really excited for that. Plus, sapphic romance, and I don't get a chance to read enough sapphic romances. The next couple of books I want to read are on my Kindle. I got one from Kindle Unlimited because I still have a Kindle Unlimited subscription from when I bought my Kindle, and the other one is from Libby. So I want to read A Nordic King. It's also like a romance book. I don't know too much about it, but I know that the main dude is a single father, and I love single parent romances. And apparently the main woman in the like role is supposed to be, I think, his children's caretaker, which sounds very interesting to me. I would love to see like that unfold. Also, apparently this is also a royalty romance, which is something that I tend to like really enjoy when I read. I read a lot of like royalty romances, not on purpose, but I enjoy all of them a lot when I do. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the last book that I have on my Kindle that I want to read is Nevermore. My friend Angie, once again, heard a lot of good things about it and brought it up to me. It is supposed to be like a fantasy setting middle grade book, and I haven't read a fantasy book in a very long time, and I especially haven't read a middle grade book in a really long time. I love middle grade novels, and I just tend to not pick them up as much anymore, but I really do enjoy the writing, and I think a lot of middle grade writing is done extremely well, so I'm really excited to pick that up, especially because it is like more so a fantasy book. I think like the last time I read like a middle grade book, it might have been like 2 years ago, and then before that when I was in middle school, and I'm like 26 years old now, so I'm really looking forward to that. I also want to read Animal Farm, which I've been vegetarian since I was 11, and at this point I'm not vegan, but I eat mostly vegan. And the concept of the book is basically like these animals on a farm like rise up and are basically like battling against humans for like their rights, and it sounds very, very interesting. I never read it in school, which I know a lot of people tend to do, so I'm looking forward to that like aspect of seeing like why people tend to teach it in school. And I definitely think that I'll find it interesting just because like I don't eat meat, so that's really fun. I'm recording this now on the 1st, and I've also read, I finished Just Mercy, which goes into mass incarceration, the reasons behind mass incarceration, and specifically, like, the death penalty. And I want to learn a lot more about, like, mass incarceration and the death penalty in specific, and I picked up that book and, like, really, really enjoyed it. And I've also started, I believe it's called If These Wings Could Fly, and I'm about a third of the way through it, and I'm really enjoying that so far. So hopefully I am able to get through all of those books in the month of March. If I am able to, I'm definitely going to pick up more books, probably more of that Mafia romance by Cora Riley. And then I also think that I'm going to try and read either To Kill a Mockingbird or Spoiler Alert during the month. I might read Spoiler Alert just because I've had it for months, and it definitely is like one of my most like anticipated reads that I want to read for the year of 2021, but I've been putting off for a really long time. So if I get too bored with anything, hopefully I'll have a book that I can pick up and read and really enjoy. If you're making yourself a TBR for the month of March, or there's any books that you really want to read within the next couple of weeks, please let me know below in the comments. I would love to like find new books to add to my own TBR. And other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Happy reading. Bye.